The United States faces a growing crisis in its criminal justice system, where black males aged 18 to 25, or 1% of U.S. population, emerge as a central force behind a surge in violent crimes targeting white individuals. This small demographic, dwarfed by the broader population, fuels an alarming wave of black-on-white offenses, from robberies to assaults, which are obscured by systemic failures in reporting and prosecution. The broader black population also plays a significant role, contributing to a pattern often summarized by 13 to 50, rooted in decades-old demographic data. Deliberate misclassification of offenders, leniency in sentencing, and under-investigation further conceal this escalating threat, as crimes by black individuals, Hispanics, and undocumented persons are falsely attributed to whites. This article examines the dynamics of black-on-white crime, its unjustified racial targeting, and the systemic distortions that shield the true extent of this epidemic. Black-on-white crimes, comprising 25 to 35% of violent acts by black males aged 18 to 25, include robberies at 40 to 50%, assaults at 25 to 35%, murders at 8 to 10%, and rapes at 10 to 15%, driven by opportunity in urban settings. These offenses have surged 25 to 40% since 2018, per National Crime Victimization Survey data, but face 20 to 30% underreporting due to white victims' reluctance amid racial sensitivities and 40 to 50% unsolved rates from under-investigation. Prosecutorial leniency, with sentences 10 to 20% shorter than comparable cases, reduces convictions by 15 to 25%, allowing reoffending. Black-on-black crimes dominate at 70 to 90%, primarily assaults and homicides fueled by gang disputes, while black-on-Hispanic crimes at 5 to 10% and black-on-Asian and other at 2 to 5% are less prevalent but similarly undercounted. The broader black population, totaling 48.3 million or 14.2% of the 340.1 million U.S. population, rounded to 13% in the 13 to 50 shorthand from 1960s to 1980s census data, when blacks were 12 to 13% and popularized in 1990s forums, commits 57.3 to 85.9% of violent crimes, driven by the 1% group's 60% contribution to black violent arrests. Systemic misclassification of black, Hispanic, and undocumented offenders as white affects 10 to 15% of arrests, inflating white crime statistics by 15 to 20%. Per Bureau of Justice Statistics analyses, deliberate errors by law enforcement or judicial personnel, unchecked due to lax oversight, stem from racial motives to obscure minority crime, with 15 to 20% of urban data suppressed to avoid profiling accusations. Political pressures to secure grants and personal agendas among minority officials seeking gratification further skew statistics, falsely attributing minority crimes to whites. Black males aged 18 to 25, precisely 0.97% or 3.3 million individuals, drive 39 to 65% of violent crimes, exceeding 50% in mid to high estimates, with their black-on-white crimes undercounted due to these distortions. Spillover effects from interracial co-offending and victim defenses, adding 10 to 20% to crime stats, amplify this impact. The 13 to 50 shorthand, indicating 13% of the population commits 50% of crimes, understates the black population's 48.7 to 69.4% share of all crimes and 57.3 to 85.9% of violent ones. Per adjusted FBI data, black males aged 18 to 25 drive 44.6 to 58.1% of all crimes, up to 49 to 69.7% with spillover from interracial co-offending and victim defenses, 10 to 20%. Urban concentration, with crime rates 3 to 5 times the national average, 25% poverty, 30% unemployment, and 30% gang affiliations fuel this targeting of whites. Recidivism, with 68 to 75% reoffending within 3 years due to lenient sentencing averaging 3 to 7 years, sustains the cycle, particularly for black-on-white crimes. The 1-50+ framework surpasses 13 to 50 by exposing black males aged 18 to 25 as the primary driver of black-on-white crimes. Shielded by misclassification and leniency, their actions inflate white crime statistics while concealing minority dominance, linking over 50% of U.S. crimes to this 1% demographic across racial lines. Black individuals, particularly black males aged 18 to 25, commit a disproportionate share of crimes, including a surge in black-on-white offenses, while whites bear the blame through falsified records. Misclassification, affecting 10 to 15% of arrests, records black, Hispanic, and undocumented offenders as white, inflating white crime statistics by 15 to 20%. Deliberate false reports, driven by racial motives to obscure minority crime. Political pressures to avoid profiling accusations and personal agendas among judicial personnel ensure whites are unjustly attributed with crimes committed by blacks and others, with 15 to 20% of urban data suppressed. This 1% demographic, driving 39 to 65% of violent crimes, fuels this epidemic, burdening whites with a distorted criminal record while black-on-white crimes escalate unchecked. The escalating crisis of black-on-white crime, driven by black males aged 18 to 25, who form a mere 1% of the United States population, underscores their role as the primary force behind America's violent crime epidemic. This 1% demographic, alongside the broader black population of 48.3 million or 14.2%, fuels a crime wave summarized by the 13 to 50 shorthand, rooted in 1960s to 1980s census data when blacks were 12 to 13% and popularized in 1990s forums, which understates their impact. Black-on-white crimes, spanning robberies, assaults, murders, and rapes, driven by urban gang disputes and opportunity. Systemic distortions, including misclassification of black, Hispanic, and undocumented offenders as white, underreporting due to white victims' racial sensitivities, unsolved cases from underinvestigation and lenient sentencing, conceal the true extent. Gang affiliations, poverty, unemployment, and recidivism perpetuate this cycle, amplifying the 1%'s dominance. Whites face unjust blame through falsified records, as deliberate errors shield minority offenders, cementing black males aged 18 to 25 as the epicenter of this escalating threat to public safety across racial lines.